Welcome to Franklin County Business of Professional Women's monthly show. It's great to have you with us. Today I'm honored to interview and be with Megan Ruprecht, which I have been able to spend the summer getting to know, and her story, and it's absolutely amazing. So let's get started, Megan.
Hi Hope, how are you?
I am so good. Do you want to tell us just a little teeny bit about yourself to begin with?
Sure. Well, my name is Megan Ruprecht, and I have been born in, well, I wasn't born and raised here actually. I take that back. Since 7 years old, I've lived here in Vermont and grew up in Enosburg. And I have recently decided that I wanted to take a little journey and apply for Mrs. Vermont. And I actually won. And in July, I went down and competed at the international level and met 65 other very inspiring women doing very important work across the country. I currently live over in Franklin, and I'm a sales representative with the Serta Mattress Company. And that's it in a nutshell.
Well, it's interesting because as we've spoken before, you chose to become Mrs. Vermont based on a platform which I find really, really fascinating, and I know that you're so passionate about it, and I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so in getting involved with Mrs. Vermont, I had to choose a platform to work with for the year. And I wanted to choose something that I could speak about from experience and something that I could represent with passion. And with that being said, I was aware of a local organization actually called Sweethearts and Heroes, which is a nonprofit anti-bullying organization. And I knew the founder of the organization through my brother, who did some training with him several years back. And when I won Mrs. Vermont, I contacted him and let him know that I was interested in participating in any way that I could. Told him my story a little bit, and have since become a full-time member of the organization, and it's really special and amazing to be a part of.
Right. And the name of that organization is?
The name is Sweethearts and Heroes. And what we do is we go around and we present to schools across the country, and we go into schools and we empower bystanders to take a stance against people who, when they see them being bullied, and to stand up for each other.
So what are some of the ways to, see if someone is being bullied? Like, how do we know when that's happening for sure?
Sure. Well, I know I can look back when I was in school, and I'm sure you can too, Hope, and
Yes.
think of 5 people in your school who were just brutally bullied on a daily basis. And you could also flip over the page and probably write down 5 people who you knew were doing the bullying. Bullies get away with it 96% of the time, almost 100% of the time, and 85% of the time people see it. There are witnesses there. And so this doesn't make sense. How is it that people can witness bullying going on, and 96% of the time they get away with it? And the answer is that when students see bullying going on in school, they usually don't know what to do. The best answer that they can give us is that they'll tell a teacher, but most of the time they don't know what to do. And what Sweethearts and Heroes does is we give students an action plan. It's as easy as, we call ourselves the stop, drop, and roll of bullying, because we can ask kids across America what to do when they catch on fire, and they'll say, stop, drop, and roll.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they can fire that off. We need to make an intervention when kids see bullying going on in school as simple as stop, drop, and roll. And so we call it the ABC action plan. And it's really about, when you see somebody being bullied, getting that victim away. That's what A stands for in ABC. B is become their buddy, and you don't have to be best friends with that person, but maybe when I pull you away from a situation, I say, Hope, I really like your earrings, or your top is really pretty today. They're probably going to smile so big that they rip their face.
Yeah.
And C is confront the situation, and what that means is you can tell a teacher, or maybe if you're a popular kid in school and you have a lot of confidence and you feel children or kids will listen to you, you could say, Hope, I saw what you were doing to Megan earlier today, and it's really not cool. She's got a pretty crummy situation at home, and you should really stop giving her such a hard time. So ABC. It's simple, kids understand it, it's non-confrontational, but what it does is it takes that 10-second window where we can intervene and change the way that the victim is interpreting the situation that they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know it's, it's not really actually a leap to say that what Sweethearts and Heroes is doing is not only life changing, but it's saving lives. And your story alone, even though we have not gotten into it at all, your story alone is about saving lives and will do so. And
yeah, I would agree. I've watched the message touch thousands of kids now since I've got involved back in March, and there are hundreds of testimonials of students who needed to hear our message and reached out to us afterward to say, my gosh, you changed my life. We teach kids or people who are victims of bullying that hold on, possibilities exist. We use an acronym called HOPE. Hold on, possibilities exist. And we just try to help them understand that at one point in time, you could defend yourself if somebody, if the neighbor boy was picking on you over the summer because you grew 6 inches. You could stick up for yourself, and you could ignore that behavior when you were younger. But when you get to middle school and when you get to high school, the environment changes drastically. And all of a sudden, we aren't able to defend ourselves as well. And that's where we can start to believe what people are saying about us, because it's habitual. When somebody is being bullied, it's habitual, it's intentional, and the person who is doing the bullying has some sort of power over that person. There's, somebody who's being bullied is usually smaller or weaker. And that doesn't mean just in physical size or height. It could mean in social net worth, whatever sports teams that you're on or activities that you participate in. And so these people become programmed to believe what it is that bullies are saying to them or things that they're doing to them.
So is it safe to say that Sweethearts and Heroes felt a passion to do what they're doing because they feel that out of the 4,400 or more children that are killing themselves each year, every single life is worth it? Every single life is worth
Absolutely.
It's worth it. It's worth saving.
I would say that Sweethearts and Heroes believes that this problem of bullying in America, across the country, around the world, is a real epidemic.
Yes.
4,400 young men and women are taking their lives every single year because of this thing called bullying. And we haven't taken the necessary steps, I think, to really make change in our school, to say hanging up a poster or no tolerance zone is not going to cut it anymore.
Right.
Because the thing is bullies have always been here. They've always been here. And their story is probably worse than anybody else's story, because they behave that way for a reason.
Yeah.
They behave that way because they have a lack of love at home, or because they experience hate in their lives. They become this person, and it's a learned behavior. But what I would like to say is that, I'm sorry, we'll have to edit this, but I lost track of where I was going with that.
That's okay.
What was the question that you had?
Well, I mean, we were just talking about what Sweethearts and Heroes stands for, and that every life is worth saving.
Yes, every life is worth saving. 4,400 men and women take their lives every single year. And what we need to do is give students an action plan to be able to change that environment themselves, because hanging up posters is not going to cut it anymore. As a child, I was taught that if I saw anything wrong going on in school, that I shouldn't get involved, that I should ignore it, and that I should maybe go tell a teacher. That was really the best thing that I could do. But these students have to understand, and we have to empower them to be able to step in and intervene when they see something going on that isn't right, and that they do have the power to change that situation. And we like to say that they have the power to be somebody's hero.
Absolutely, yeah. It's amazing though, as parents, and I'm even thinking back to all the times that I would tell my own child to avoid those situations. And really, in reality, avoiding those situations, whether you're being bullied or avoiding the situation of seeing someone else being bullied, is really what you're saying is exactly what not to do.
Absolutely, and that's why Sweethearts and Heroes has sort of flipped this thing on its head. Instead of being a perspective or an awareness-based organization. We're an organization with an action plan.
Yeah.
And the majority of the students are not bullies. They're not victims. The majority of the students are bystanders.
Right.
And so if we take that large chunk of students and we empower them to make a difference and to create their own bully-free zones and environments in school, then that's where we'll really start to see a change in this problem. That's where we'll continue to save lives, by giving these students the ability to save each other.
Yeah. I mean, you're really making it so that the bully situation becomes non-existent. There's nothing in it, you know. There's nothing in it for the bully. They're in an environment that doesn't support the behavior anymore.
Exactly. And we use Albert Einstein's quote, "This world is a dangerous place to live, not because of evil people, but because of people who choose to do nothing about it."
Absolutely.
And really what Sweethearts and Heroes does is we tackle this problem of bullying, but we're really a character building organization, because we're trying to empower young men and women to say, no, this is not okay. I recognize that this is not okay, and I have the power to do something about it.
Absolutely.
And by doing that, like you said, creating an environment where bullies can't thrive,
right,
then we're eliminating the problem.
Right. I just love this topic.
It's very inspiring, that's for sure.
You know, one of the things that crossed my mind was, do you think that when someone is bullying, that they always know that they're doing it, or do you think sometimes they have no idea that they're really doing it?
Again, going back to the bully story, they weren't hatched from eggs. They weren't born that way. They've learned that behavior, and if that's become a learned behavior and a part of who they are and a part of their everyday life, then I would bet that they don't realize that what they're doing is so detrimental and can be so harmful to other students, that they could go home and take their life someday because of the things that they're doing or saying to these people. I would say that because it is a learned behavior, it could very well be that it's completely unconscious that they're acting this way.
Mm-hmm. Right, especially if it's part of their, even their lives outside of school.
Absolutely.
If it's a huge part of their lives outside of school, then they would think it's normal.
Absolutely. If that's the sort of behavior that they're seeing at home, or the way that they've been taught to treat other people, then it is a part of who they are, and they don't recognize it as being abnormal or different.
Right, right. And I know it's off topic, but you know, sometimes I think about the bullying that may go on with young children, and like you said, it happens even in elementary school, but I think about how often it happens when they grow to be adults and continue not knowing that they're doing it, and then we end up in, you know, work zones with other people who are
Absolutely.
have bullying behaviors.
Absolutely. Bullying behavior, I would say, can most certainly carry over into adulthood. And what's important to remember about bullying is that it's a habitual action. It's intimidation of smaller or weaker people, and it's on purpose. It's intentional. So if somebody comes to school or somebody comes to work every day and tells me, I don't do a good job at work, I don't get this done, you need to be better at this, you're really bad at this, I'm going to start to believe those things, and that's going to affect my performance at work.
Right.
It's going to affect my relationships at work, and that can, I think, very easily be translated into a work environment as adults.
Yes.
So the comparison is there, I would agree.
Yes, and there's a bigger conversation there, but obviously we would never have enough time today
Right.
to go into that. We want to focus on the kids and how important it is to save their lives and to empower them.
Absolutely. I wish that we like to call, the word sweethearts actually came from the word bully. Mm-hmm. The origin of the word sweetheart was bully. And so that's where we get the first part of our name, Sweethearts and Heroes. And we like to say that we go into school and we make 16th century bullies. So I wish I had a few more 16th century bullies in my life when I was a kid, because I was picked on when I was in school. There are a few different categories of bullying. Verbal bullying is really the worst of them all. It's about 50% of all bullying that goes on. And we had a young boy once say that I wish that I got punched in the face because I can't go home and show my mom and dad my bruised heart. So can you imagine a young boy would rather get socked in the face because he could explain his black eye, but he couldn't explain his bruised heart because of the things that people were saying about him or doing to him. It's very sad. And I was a victim of verbal and social bullying. And so I wish that I had somebody who was empowered or felt like they could step out and save me, because I went through a very long period of time up until probably 4 years ago where I really lacked self-confidence because of the way that I was treated in school. And being a student who came in when I was in the 2nd grade, people get picked on because they're different. It could be because they're smarter, it could be because they're taller, it could be because they're more athletic, prettier. And so I was different because I came from another school and came in during the 2nd grade, and from that period on, there were many different things that contributed to me being bullied, I feel like. But a lot of it was because I was from another state and because my heritage was different than many other students around here. And once other students started to pick up on that, it became a point of interest to then use against me or to isolate me from social situations.
And you find yourself even isolating yourself more in that situation, do you think?
Absolutely.
So not only are you being isolated at school, but then you find yourself even perhaps outside of that environment, isolating yourself more, maybe even taking on that belief system that you are less than, that you are not good enough, or that maybe you're even no one. And
absolutely. Up until about 4 years ago, when somebody asked me what I was, I had a hard time answering because I was embarrassed, because in school I had been taught that it was something that I should be embarrassed about.
Right.
My dad is from Iowa. He's Dutch and German, and my mother's from the Middle East. She's Palestinian. And I had a hard time telling people that. Of course, while I was in middle school,
right,
the attacks had happened on 9/11, and that heritage and that country had become a topic of interest, and it was a bad thing to be associated with being Middle Eastern. And so for years, I would never tell people that. I would make up other things or tell half-truths. And yeah, I think that you start to believe the way that other people make you feel.
Yeah, and that's so similar, not to lessen that, but so similar when they do the same thing to a child whose, nose is crooked, or who,
absolutely
has acne or whatever the situation is. And it's just really silly when you look at it.
It is, when you look at it in the big picture. And that's why with victims, we give them that hope button, hold on, possibilities exist. Because for me, if you had asked me 5 years ago what I would be doing or who I was or what I believed in, or if I thought I was smart, or if I thought I was going to be somebody, or if I thought I was pretty, I probably would have said no to all of those things or not really been sure, because my confidence had been shaken. And many, many students in America, around the world, have that same feeling of feeling less than. And that's how 4,400 men and women end up taking their lives throughout the year in America, because they've been programmed to believe those things.
Yeah. I loved your story about, when you talked about, bystanders can do the smallest thing, even asking another kid to come sit at their table for lunch. I mean, it's huge.
It is.
To a high schooler or a, middle school child, to have somebody look at them and even just say, would you like to come have lunch at my table today? To recognize them without saying anything else.
Yeah. The hallway, we like to say that, it's like being released into the wild at school, the hallway. It can be brutal. I can remember the first day that I went to high school, going from the elementary school over to the high school, being physically sick because I was so nervous about fitting in and having friends. And it can be scary. And so if I had somebody, an upperclassman or a popular student who just smiled at me maybe walking in, or asked how my day was, or asked me to sit at their table, it really can change somebody's life. And it's really the smallest, most effortless action that can really make a difference. And that's what our goal with Sweethearts and Heroes is, to just empower bystanders to want to behave that way. Before those situations even happen, do something about it or prevent those situations from happening, because you never know the kind of impact that it's going to have on somebody's life.
Yeah. And I think coming from a parent, perspective, to start encouraging your daughter or son to act in that way, and to notice and to look for those situations, which they can make small little subtle differences.
Absolutely.
Do parents come to the presentations?
We do a parent presentation, and sometimes there will be parents in the audience. It's usually parents who are also teachers in the school, so they get to come and watch the presentation as well. But we do offer a parent presentation. The thing is that out of 1,000 students in an auditorium, you'll be lucky if you get about 20 parents there. Right. So we do offer it.
Yep. And it's probably not as vital, but it's just nice to know from a parent perspective that I can encourage and should encourage my child to do those small things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love that. Love that. Have you been in any situations where a child suddenly realizes that, oh my gosh, I am the bully, like it is me, and do you guys have the opportunity to coach them, to work with them in any way after the presentation?
We have a great testimonial from a young man who found himself in that situation, and after watching the presentation, we have 5 bully buttons. And one of the major buttons is perspective. And that's where we chisel away at children's perspective of what bullying is. And a part of that is helping them to understand that. Could you ask the question again, Hope?
Well, I was just wondering about when you realize that, you have a child who realizes that
they're the bully.
Are the bully, and how that must be all of a sudden very emotional, and absolutely they're probably going to take the steps to get out of that situation, but I wonder what it's like when you sit down and you have that conversation.
Getting back to the perspective piece, they don't realize most of the time that they're even doing it. And what they don't realize is that the person that they're bullying is a little bit different for a reason. So let's say, for instance, a young girl comes to school and she wears the same jeans, and you know that they're the same jeans because they've got the same stain on the knee, and all the students pick up on it, and she's always trying to cover it up because she doesn't want people to know that she's only got 2 pairs of jeans. But what they don't know, or what the bullies don't know about that person, is that their mom is sick in the hospital, and she wears the same jeans because her mom isn't there at home to take care of her and to wash her clothes for her. She's staying with a friend. And that's where the perspective piece of what we do oftentimes enlightens these students who are the bullies to say, oh wow, maybe I should lay off this person because they probably have a lot more going on in their lives that I'm even aware of. And so we've had several instances where kids who are bullies have reached out to us and said, I'm so glad that I heard your message, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have known to change my behavior, or I wouldn't have known that what I'm doing isn't okay or could cause somebody to take their life.
Right.
And so I think that there is that piece where we help put the perspective in place for these students who are bullies. Right. And like I said, we have some great testimonials of students who have reached out to us after saying, wow, I'm so glad that I heard your presentation and I heard your message, because I have goals to be a better person, and I keep them in my pocket every single day, and I'm trying to be better.
That is amazing.
It's wonderful because Sweethearts and Heroes can affect all 3 members of the bully cycle in such a positive way, and it's really powerful. The message is very powerful.
I'm just really glad that, one of the things we're doing at Franklin County BPW this year is we are working and focusing on empowering women to empower our community. And getting to know you from this time over the summer, you truly are an amazing human being. And I know we didn't even get to touch upon your story today, but I'm really happy that you're going to be coming to our Franklin County BPW October meeting to tell your personal story.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And so that's amazing. And I look forward to hearing it. I have heard it before, but I would hear it 20 more times.
Yes, it's anybody can go through this and experience this in their lives.
Absolutely.
And if my story can help somebody out there, especially women, and empower them to just hang on, hold on, possibilities exist.
Absolutely.
You can overcome anything and come out shining on the other side.
Yeah. And hold on, because you are an amazing human being.
Exactly.
Even if you're coming from a place and a moment in your life, it is just a moment where you feel like you're not enough, you feel like you're less than, whether you're a child or you're an adult, it is just a moment in your life, and it will pass, and there will come that time when somebody will look you in the eye and say, you know what, you're important.
Mm-hmm. And exactly, you'll look back and think, wow, that was so meaningless, or that shouldn't have had such a powerful effect on my life. And
thank you so much for coming today and talking just a little bit about Sweethearts and Heroes. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hope.
Megan will be speaking this month, October 21st, I believe. And if you want to become a member at Franklin County BPW, that's www.bpwfranklincounty.com. And you can check us out there. Thank you.